And before we start, I'd like to ask you if you could do me a quick favour. If you could give me a quick like for this video, it will help the video to soar and for the channel to grow, which is, I hope you would agree, a good thing. So if you can stick a like on, that would be nice. Also, if you would like to subscribe, please do so. And also if you want to click on that bell, but do it twice, click twice, and it will give you an immediate notification when any of my new videos hit the streets. Anyway, back to this video. Welcome back to a new vinyl and CD review episode, and we're looking at a variety of genres as per usual. There's a few more vinyl than CDs this time, different genres, some old, some new. Let's get to it. And we have a little bit of retro, I suppose, to begin with Sheila B. Devotion and King of the World on Warner Music. Ah yes, this was the one with the supremely disco-fied funky single that has a hook so large, blue whales were known to run in fright when it entered the charts. Spacer is that track, and a hip wobbler it was, and let me say this because I did a quick test, still is. And let's not forget just why this track was such a groove machine. Behind it were the talents of Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers, they of disco royalty, chic of course. Released in 1980, this was a time when I just didn't see the ampersand in the artist's name, and I thought the lady's name actually was Sheila B. Devotion, and I always thought she came across a tad formal because she displayed her middle name. Not so, it appears, because B Devotion were the Black Devotion, the three guys posing, not always successfully I have to say, on the rear sleeve. I'm not sure who he was, from Danny McFarlane, Freddie Strachan and Arthur Wilkins, but the chap on the far right definitely had a pouty, overacting gene in his body somewhere. That pesky ampersand did disappear on occasion, adding to the confusion. Sheila herself, or Annie Chancel as she was known to her gran, was a French singer who made a splash in the 60s, part of the iconic French yé pop movement, hence the rather continental tone from her vocal delivery. She also moved her image from wholesome to sultry to suit. This was actually the outfit's final album as a group before Sheila went solo. Targeting a rock and pop angle because disco was suddenly incredibly unfashionable, Sheila recorded 3 albums in the 80s, wrote books and appeared on television in the 90s. She even returned to music in the noughties and released, get this, an 18 CD box set of her entire career output in 2006. She was last seen on French TV dressed up as a squirrel. Such are the ups and downs of the pop business. This vinyl LP, pressed on red vinyl I have to add, could and should have been a one-hit track followed by filler production, but hey, Edwards and Rodgers prevents that, turning it into a cracking disco funk outing. Nicely mastered, it's a sleeper that deserves attention. B.B. King and Eric Clapton now riding with the king from Reprise Records. You see, when you get two giants coming together in any field, you can never really be sure how it'll pan out. The fans don rose-coloured glasses and preach love and goodwill, but legendary figures arrive toting lots of baggage. The success of any venture like this depends on attitude. Then there's the potential for ego, no matter how much love there might be between them. Who owned the ball in this particular game and who would call the shots? Initially you would say Clapton. He arranged the gig, he supplied the musicians that were sprinkled hither and thither around King. When you listen to this vinyl LP though, it dawns on you that it's Clapton who might be the guy who is not exactly intimidated, more overly generous in deferring to King. Reread the album title. Read what's on the tin. There's plenty of King-esque songs here, such as Days of Old and 3 O'Clock Blues, and King certainly is the star on this album, with Clapton filling in, as do other guests incidentally. Now, how much of that support is to keep a then 74-year-old man secure, infused with energy and love, and how much is plain old hero worship, I'm not sure. The result is a very good album indeed, but never a great one. The players never really relax and never really enter into the zone. Kinks legend Dave Davis once told me about moments playing as a band when everything clicked and the music almost entered another dimension. Davis said, and I quote, "It was a sort of psychic interaction between people who are in total harmony with each other." End quote. Well, not here. Everyone's too aware of who's in the studio. Nevertheless, this LP, pressed on black vinyl, which displays an even and rather neutral master, remains a very good album indeed, with plenty for fans to enjoy. From Inside Out we have Prehensile Tales from Pattern Seeking Animals. Think prog band Spock's Beard. Why? Because everyone involved in this band has or is involved in Spock's Beard. Ted Leonard joined Spock's Beard in 2011 on vocals and guitar. Jim Keegan joined him at the same time in the band on drums. Dave Meros joined Spock's Beard in 1995 for the album The Light, while John Bagol's songwriting skills have been part of the Spock's Beard fold since, 2003? Pattern Seeking Animals has been live since 2018 and runs along similar prog lines to Spock's Beard, adding a classic prog style to its workings with a more contemporary edge. So there'll be times when, for example, early era Genesis fans will be bathed in a warm glow. The programming of the album sees a more poppy approach to begin with, while the more searching and complex arrangements entering the fray later across the double album. Pressed on black vinyl and featuring a balanced master, I wouldn't call this one a classic by any means, but prog fans will find it of interest. Allow it to infuse your mind for a while for best results. Now here's an echo from your future from the label Harbinger from the band Girls in Synthesis. This London UK three-piece band have been inspired, apparently, by earlier punk and post-punk music since they formed in 2016. The presentation is certainly urgent, noisy, energetic and discordant, a sound that pushes the album back a tad from full-blown post-punk to that intriguing boundary when punk was tipping over into post-punk imagination, when punk wasn't enough and the bands were playing fed up with only having 3 chords to play with. Been there, destroyed that. Hence, you still get the feeling from the lead singer that the microphone is the enemy. Hair should be spiked with bubbles of gel hanging off the odd follicle. There may be a bit of eyeliner in there somewhere too, although maybe not, but the voice has a point to make and it has to be said in a slightly distended Joe Strummer-like Cockney delivery. What makes the band slightly twisted is their slight metal undertone. The first several seconds of the track Human Frailty sound like the introduction to a heavy metal track, for example. Hence, this vinyl LP is more of a conglomeration of styles, as opposed to a love letter to times gone by. Nicely mastered, it appears on grey vinyl. On the Three Sirens label, we have The Grahams and the album Kids Like Us. Man and wife Alyssa and Doug Graham, actually, and country rock is what they do, all the way from Nashville, but with a New York attitude. Their and Alyssa's solo work has embraced everything from hardcore Americana in terms of bluegrass, country and even jazz, but this one is a bit different. What we have here is a nostalgia fest, music, as the title hints, of a bygone era. Classic 60s pop with 70s rock overtones is the style here. The songs mix girl group yearning and energy with 70s singer-songer angst. In purely style terms, there's even a mixture of early period Bruce Springsteen here combined with later period Dusty Springfield, plus a whole lot more. This is an LP full of moods and memories. Spinning this one, you may find your mind drifting back to those early days, uncontrolled memories bubbling to the surface. Have a drink in your hand before you run this vinyl LP. Wolfgang Muthspiel and Friends on the ECM label, and we have Angular Blues. ECM is celebrating its 50th birthday this year, which is one reason why I've been paying them regular attention. Instead of the CDs I've listened to of late, I was lucky enough to grab a vinyl edition of this release. It's jazz, yes, but it's restrained and delicate and slightly introspective, and a little bit contemplative as well. Muthspiel sports an acoustic guitar, you see, which sets the finger-picking tone, one of quiet thought, one of musing and of drift. Scott Colley's upright bass pushes the guitar onwards, forcing a pace when that guitar might very well prefer to smell a few roses along the path. But no, that bass nudges, it prods and eases the music forwards. Brian Blade's percussion then pours over the pair like gnats over a strolling bard. Its cloud of punctuation serves as a frantic contrast to the calm, adding a balance of energy that forms a rhythmic whole. Imagine sitting within a fairground ghost train, wheels balanced and greased so you feel no bumps or friction, and the only sights you see in the darkness are your reflected thoughts as you move from rotating angle to angle. CD now, and LB Bop Kid from the Jasmine label. This one is from Freddie Fender. Back in early 1975, Freddie Fender had himself a multi-million selling hit with a countrified ballad called Before the Next Teardrop Falls. It topped the charts and remains a cherished memory still for those whose emotions were touched by this slow, heartfelt ditty. But Freddie had been in the business a long time before, 20 years before actually. Back in Mexico, he was bothering the charts in the late 50s with his Spanish language covers of American hits. There was no stopping the kid at the time, who would release several singles per year. It was only in 1959 that he would begin cutting his singles in English in an attempt to break the US market. Fender was a poor child. His father had died when Fender was very young, and he was brought up by his mother, who struggled to put food on the table. Our Fender resorted to stealing to make ends meet, along with shining shoes and dabbling in a bit of gang culture. Then he was given what was left of a guitar, sporting just 3 strings. Fender learned to play and then found himself in the army, then court-martialed and then discharged. The reason? Drink, and lots of it. Then he turned to Texas. He, quote, grew sideburns, put 50 pounds of wax on my hair and started kicking some ass. Fender states that he was the first Hispanic rock and roller, even before Richie Valens, and he immediately had Mexican and statewide hits. Known as the LB Bop Kid, it was at this time he changed his moniker from his own name, Baldemar Hueto, to Freddie Fender. He then had some success via the Imperial and Chess labels and found more business via smaller local labels. The demon drink and marijuana possession triggered more prison terms that tended to put the brake on his career prospects. This CD is a Spanish language part 1 of a proposed 2-volume set. English language song versions will appear in that part 2. This one packs in 32 tracks, and they provide a surprisingly even mastering. Fender also provides a jaunty, enthusiastic and energetic rock and roll that should be sought by those looking to explore lesser known, darker corners of the genre. I thought I'd leave this one an ace in its original packing, just so you see how I receive it. I don't receive these promo copies in a jewel case, as you might expect. I suppose it keeps the post down for the company. Anyway, what we have here are 60s big ballads, soul voices. It's a compilation. There's a lot of tracks. There's a lot going on. Let's talk about it. A 24-track compilation of lush, gorgeously orchestrated soul ballads. New York was the centre of this sort of sophistication, with Los Angeles not too far behind. 4 are previously unissued. Kenny Carter's Big Bad Rain, quite possibly my favourite track on this CD, was penned by Larry Banks and Herman Kelly and arranged by New York's Gary Sherman. Clarence Pinckney sings the Billy Terrell song just outside of Lonely, and Junior Lewis sings a demo of the Buddy Lucas song I Love You So Much, which was never issued for a release. Billy Watkins covers the jazz standard I Want to Be Loved in a sort of Sam Cooke fashion. There are rare 45s here by Brooks O'Dell, Herb Johnson and Tony Mason, plus better known songs from the likes of Clyde McPhatter, Garrett Saunders, Jimmy Beaumont and Roy Hamilton. This compilation oozes well-dressed, delicately coiffured, perfectly arranged, timely choreographed and deliciously delivered soul giants belting out performances that will have you resting in a pool of messy emotion on the floor of your listening room. And on that emotional note, I will bid you adieu because that's me done. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video. I want to thank you very much too for your support for this channel. It's much appreciated. Thank you too for all the subscribes and the likes. And I will be back. I'll be back this Friday and we're going to be looking at something speaker-ish, I think, in hi-fi terms. So watch out for that one. Until then, hope you can join me then. Bye bye for now.